This is the Para Cave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, and co-sponsors Bo Cook from Loan Market, Scott from Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, the official clothing partner of the Para Cave Podcast, and the official media partner of the Para Cave Podcast, the Parramatta Times. Hello listeners, welcome back to the Para Cave Podcast. This episode is the review that I do each Sunday with the Duckman on Pulse FM 89.9 FM on his weekend sports wrap show, which is I come on at just after 7 o'clock. Just after the 7 o'clock news, and we review the NRL round that was previously played. So this one is for round 6, and we had the big clash between the Storm and the Roosters, the annual Good Friday clash between the Bulldogs and Rabbitohs. We had a big score in the Panthers-Sea Eagles game. Broncos Raiders game, that was a good game, and a bit of controversy coming out of that game. And we also talk about the Titans and Dragons, Knights and Warriors was happening as we were talking. And the game that we didn't review was the Easter Monday game between the Tigers and the Eels. So no doubt we'll catch up with that one a little bit soon. But we gave our previews on the Sunday anyway of that game. So have a listen and see how I went. Or how we went, and no doubt we might review that game next week on Friday night, where I also talked to the Duckman as well in previewing the round as well. So sit back, relax, enjoy this one, and hear my thoughts as a fan, not an expert, about the NRL round 6.
Guest on now. Troy Warner from the Para Cave Podcast. Troy, how you going?
I'm going fantastic, Duckman, and happy Easter to all your listeners out there and to yourself as well.
Yeah, happy Easter to you and your family too, and yes, to all of our good listeners out there. And just for everyone that doesn't know, so we have a big chicken. This won't make sense unless you look at it. We've got a big chicken in the window of the studio facing Magnolia Mall. You can come past and check it out. I've left the doors for the arcade open if you have nothing to do in Hawkesbury, and if you're listening to me because you've really got nothing to do on the weekend, come and check it out. And you can guess how many eggs are in that chicken if you get it all right. And the chocolate eggs I'm talking about, you have a chance of winning that. And you can text into 0434 440 553. And it will be drawn out the winner with your correct, like you'll leave a name and number, and the correct number that you want to say how many eggs there are. So what happened before? Colin said there's between 20 and 1,000. So I took a stab and say probably around about the 500 mark. So go with something in between that, somewhere between 500 and 1,000 or 20 and 500. You'll have a fair chance the winner will be drawn on air in a breakfast show tomorrow by Horsey.
All right, Duckman, I'll say 763. There you go. There's a random stab.
763. I might throw a bet in myself, so, and we'll see how it'll see if I've got a chance to win it. I don't know who knows the actual number, even if there is an actual number, or we're just seeing who takes the best guess and how many people guess. I'll just go with that. All right, rugby league this weekend, so kicked off back on Thursday night. And what's part of this game after a training session with Blacktown Warriors? Melbourne Storm, they look way too good for the Roosters. 28 points for 8 they won, and they were very good.
Yeah, definitely. Two powerhouse clubs in the NRL, two fierce rivals as well. Brandon Smith playing for the Roosters, first time against his old club, the Melbourne Storm, and down there at Amy Park. And the Roosters coming off a good win against Parramatta, and the Storm were up for this game as well. So the Roosters started off well with a try to Jackson Paulo, and they got off to that good start. But then, the Melbourne Storm, they just kicked into gear. And unfortunately for Victor Radley, he got sin bin for a late push tackle, as they say, on Cameron Munster, and once that happened, it just led into 2 quick tries in that time, and Melbourne never looked back. Xavier Coates 3 tries, Nick Meaney was on fire, and Cameron Munster again just leading the Melbourne Storm around. So disappointing loss for the Roosters, but a good win for the Storm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a tough win. I know, but once they got in front, they really got ahead, and then just they didn't look like looking back. Then they just really went through the motions. Hit form looked good, and it was pretty clinical in the end of the game now. Bulldogs hosted Souths on Friday, so I kind of expected the result, but I didn't expect the scoreline of the result. Anyway, Souths got up 50 points to 16, so that one came out of blue. I thought it might be much closer than that.
Yeah, for sure. Traditional Good Friday game between these two clubs, and a big build-up. It was congratulations to Latrell Mitchell as well, his 150th NRL game as well to him. So obviously the Rabbitohs wanted to win for him, but also get the 2 points and get their season back on track. And the Bulldogs started off well with a long-range try to Jake Averillo. So it was all looking very good there, but then the Rabbitohs just kicked into gear, and they never looked back. Latrell Mitchell scoring 2 tries within 3 minutes in the first half. It was 4 tries to 1 in the first half, so it was 26-6 at half time. So a very hard difference to make back against one of the competition favourites. Matty Burton scored a double. They got a try quickly after half time. You thought, okay, maybe they might be on the way back, but then a controversial sin binning to Jacob Preston as well for a hip drop tackle. I forget who it was on, but a hip drop tackle on one of the Rabbitohs players, and he got sin binned. And once that happened, Cody Walker scored, Latrell scored, Campbell Graham scored. So 3 tries in that 10 minutes, and the Rabbitohs just ran away with it. Campbell Graham scoring a hat-trick right at the end, the last 12 minutes of the game. So controversial sin binning. There's no suspension to Jacob for that hip drop tackle, which we all thought that would have happened anyway because of the way it looked. It didn't look like it was a traditional hip drop tackle, although a lot of people are getting confused about what is a hip drop tackle these days.
Yeah, I don't blame them, because it's not very clear what it is. So the hip drop effectively is when you've got 2 men in holding the tackle player up, and then you get another person come in from the side and chop their legs and land on the side of them. Pretty much take them out, so when they're all tangled up and they can't go anywhere. So I think that's effectively what it is. I know James Graham, he blew up about it on the radio the other night too, so I did see that when he was commentating for Triple M. So he's pretty emotional about this stuff because he saw one last weekend as well, and either they're happening all the time or it's not happening all the time, and the referees are getting that wrong. So their interpretation of it anyway.
Yeah, and it's just getting confusing for fans as well. Sometimes these tackles, you see them happen and you think, well, how... I mean, players don't go out to injure players, but if a player has run past you and the only choice is to pull them down from behind, well, you're not going to let go and possibly cost your team a try. You're going to tackle them, you're going to try and pull them down. And I remember being taught in junior footy, it's hit around the midriff and then sort of slide down, but you just can't do that these days with these injuries that are happening to in these tackles. Latrell Mitchell, he scored 26 points in that game, so it was nearly going to be a Rabbitohs point scoring record in a game, but unfortunately he missed a few goals late in the game, but he didn't know about that at the time. But very good effort there from Latrell, and it was probably his best game of the season.
Yeah, and he needs to do it, so it'll start playing him right into form now, coming in the right time too. It's not really that far till Origin, probably only another 4 to 6 weeks, and our Origin will start coming around. So good result there for the Bunnies, and good display by Latrell. Also on Friday night, the Cowboys hosted the Dolphins, and I thought the Cowboys would probably win this one. The Dolphins got up 32-22. It's a good win by Wayne Bennett's team.
Yeah, look, everyone most people doubted the Dolphins in this game with them playing up at Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville, the Cowboys' home ground, only because of the suspension and injuries that the Dolphins have suffered in the last few weeks. So they were down some troops, and you thought, okay, well, the Cowboys need to get their season back on track, and they're at home, and you would think that they went into the game as favourites, and you thought that they'd get the win, but I guess it's just this Wayne Bennett coach team that is getting these guys over the line, and they're just determined in every single game to get the victory, and it really shows in the way that they're playing, and they're playing some really good football. Jermaine Asako scored 3 tries. Hamiso Tabuai Fido, he's scored a double. He's actually scored a try for the Dolphins in every single game this year, so that's a pretty mean feat, and this one was against his old club as well, so probably a little bit of sweetness there for Hamiso, but the Cowboys, I'm not too sure what's going on with them. They're a little bit disappointing so far this year. They've lost a few games at home now. It used to be a little bit of a fortress up there, so a lot of people are saying potentially it could be a World Cup hangover. They had a lot of players in the World Cup. They were the best, I think the best or the second best defensive side last year in the competition. This year they're just leaking in a lot of points.
Yeah, I think perhaps last year maybe they punched above their weight. They did a really good job with Todd Payton and getting all the systems in place and did everything that they did. And perhaps some of the sides read and worked it out, and they haven't been able to kick it on to another level this year, so they've gone up a little bit. But so have the other teams. So a lot of teams try to work teams out and how they play, and you lose a couple of players here or there, and it makes a bit of a difference. So maybe that is hurting them a little bit as well. Yesterday, so the Panthers took on Manly, so I didn't expect this one either, actually. No. Panthers beat Manly 44 points to 12, 32-0 at half-time, and Dylan Edwards got 4 tries, so a big day out for Dylan, and now talking about him to be $1 million fullback. Now, I don't think he is because he's at the Panthers. I can't see how they can have another player worth $1 million in the side. Maybe at another club, maybe he might get that money. He's definitely a good fullback, but I'm not sure he's in that $1 million bracket with Tedesco and that stuff at the moment, Trebojevic. Yeah,
well, speaking of Tedesco, if there's a lot of, I think it was Brett Morris came out today, or possibly Josh Morris came out today, I think it was, and said that if Tedesco is not available for New South Wales, or obviously he'll be picked because he's captain, but if he's not available, then he'd be choosing Dylan Edwards as the fullback for New South Wales. And after last night's performance, you can't see why he wouldn't be there if Tedesco isn't there. So, yeah, scoring 4 tries, and this game was over by half-time, 32-0 to the Panthers. Consolation, the Sea Eagles won the second half, but it was 12-all in the second half. But this game was all over by half-time, 32-0. The Panthers just dominated, and it just looked so easy the way that the Panthers were scoring their tries as well. It was just they were finding line breaks and just capitalised on it. And Nathan Cleary, sharpshooter as well, 8 from 8, so those points add up. There's a little bit of worry about Tom Trebojevic as well. I think it was a bit of a rib injury, back injury, but the Sea Eagles have come out today, I think, and said that he's relatively fine. He should be right for next week.
Yeah, it should be. That's what they'll be hoping anyway. Dylan Edwards, only problem, and I like Panthers and I like Dylan Edwards. It reminds me a lot of Lachlan Coote, who used to play for the Panthers as well and then went to the Cowboys. The only problem I've seen a couple of times is let bombs bounce, right? And that's the only thing I've seen that he really does wrong. A couple of times he's done that, and when he has, a couple of times he's led the tries, not this year, in the past. I think he did one in the grand final last year too. And just little things like that. If he did that a little bit better, then he'd probably be held up in a little bit higher stead. So if that's his biggest mistake, so I can tell you, he is doing a pretty good job.
Well, speaking of
Broncos,
sorry to cut you off there, but speaking of letting bombs go, there was a funny sort of incident last night with Brad Parker. Nathan Cleary bomb went up, and Brad's just stuck his foot out and basically kicked it on the full, and Penrith got the ball back, and I think they scored in that very next set. So it was quite.
Why did he do that?
I'm not too sure. It was just something that I don't think I've ever seen before. Just the ball landed on his foot on the full and went back 10 metres, 15 metres back towards Penrith way, and they got the ball back and scored a try on the next set. So I don't think he'll be trying to do that again.
It's killer stuff there. So that's why you don't want props or second row as the kicker. Anyway, if you don't normally kick, don't kick the ball. Don't think about kicking it. I've seen it go bad over the years. The Broncos, they took on Canberra, and I thought for all money they were going to get the win here. And Canberra got up 20 points to 14. Good win by Ricky Stewart's boys.
Yeah, definitely. After last week getting smashed by the Panthers, having 50-odd put on them, the Raiders turned up to Suncorp Stadium and basically sort of bashed the Broncos at their home ground. So they got the win there, 20-14. It was a really good game. It could have went either way. The Raiders were winning 14-4 at half-time, and you thought, well, maybe the Broncos will come back after half-time and try and get the victory. They did that. They got the first try in the second half. Jordan Ricky got another try after I think he got 2 last week against the Tigers. But Jordan Rapana, he was probably the man of the match in the game, scoring 2 tries, and unfortunately he copped that knee to the head from Martin Tapa'u, which caused a lot of controversy at the time. A lot of people were saying it was an accident, it shouldn't have been penalised. A lot of people were saying it possibly could have just been penalised. But I think he's been penalised and put on report, but it's come out today that he won't have any charge to answer to. And that's probably the fair assessment. It definitely was an accident. I think by looking at the replay, I think he was trying to pull up at the time that he clipped Jordan, and it was just one of those unfortunate accidents on a rugby league field. But I think these days with anything in contact with the head, I think it's just one of those things that you get penalised for, and it goes on report. The pleasing thing for the Raiders, the pleasing thing for the Raiders as well, was the return of Jared Croker as well. Long time out of first grade, but he's come back to first grade last night and kicked some magnificent goals from wide out as well. So he's on the way to playing 300 games for the Raiders, but it's good to see him back.
Yeah, so they'll be happy to have him back. I think he's one of the best players they had. Funnily enough, is Jared Croker related to Jason Croker? So my question is, he was a try-scoring machine for the Raiders, and he played all over the field, Jason Croker. No, Jared Croker, he's right up there with their top point scorers all time, and they really need someone like him, even though he's getting quite long in the tooth now, been around for a long time. He can really inject a fair bit of speed and points and a bit of flair and that sort of stuff into the team. But they look like they probably need it at the moment as well.
Yeah, well, the way he played last night, I think he'll definitely be back next week for the Raiders and on that way to 300. And I think he is the 4th highest point scorer in the NRL history. So, he's a fantastic player, and just great to see him back and leading that Canberra team around. Even though he's not captain, he still pretty much has that presence on the field as well, and all the players want to play with him as well, so it's great to see him back.
Yeah, absolutely. And then today, Gold Coast, they took on St George Illawarra and they got up 20 points to 18. It's a good win by Justin Holbrook's men. Was listening to the game and I went, wow, they're going to get a win here, and I was saying if St George Illawarra got a win, they might have made the top 8 as well. So I think I think Gold Coast have now got in the top 8, and St George Illawarra are probably just on the outside. But good result by the Titans, and St George Illawarra can't be too disappointed either.
Yeah, well, with that win today, the Titans go up to sixth place on the ladder at the moment, and the Dragons are on in 10th. But it was a great game. 8-8 at half time, so it was anybody's game. Philip Sami came out in the second half and made some really good runs, scored a try himself, and Toby Sexton scored the match-winning try for the Titans, with Tanner Boyd kicking the goal to get that 2-point lead over the Dragons. You thought close to the end of the game when Ben Hunt scored, you thought possibly that the Dragons are going to go on to win this game. And then, the Titans just got over the top of them. It was a really good game. A little bit of spite in the game as well. Some push and shove as well. But a really good result for the Titans. The Dragons, they probably will be disappointed with losing that game, although, they'll be disappointed with that game because it was one they probably should have won.
Yeah, absolutely. So they will have felt like that 100% for sure. The Dragons, it's hard to say how good should they be going. So I really think they could push for a top 8, but they're another side that's a bit light on strike players. So along with Gold Coast, they need a couple of extra guys if they're going to be a serious chance of winning the competition, unfortunately for them. So tough for them, and it will be throughout the rest of the year as well. But they're getting better. They're definitely improving, and I think Anthony Griffin's doing a fair job. I think he's still getting a flick at the end of the year, isn't he?
I think they've asked him to reapply for his job next year, so it's not confirmed yet, but I think they've asked him to reapply, and there potentially will be other candidates going for that job as well. So it will be a test of how the Dragons go this year. If he can get the wins, he might sign or might be offered a new deal at the Dragons. If they end up losing a lot of games, well then you'd probably think that maybe Anthony Griffin has coached his last year at the Dragons, and a new coach will come in. So I guess only time will tell, and watch his space.
Yeah, I think Anthony Griffin's a good coach, and he can do a good job at doing a rebuild in a club. He did it at Penrith after he left the Broncos. Did a good job rebuilding the Broncos after they struggled as well. So I don't know, there's a bit of stigma about him as a coach. I don't know why it's there. I don't think he's the world's most exciting person in the universe, and perhaps that rubs players the wrong way or something like that. I'm not sure. In the other game today, so half-time, Newcastle against Warriors. The Knights are up 22 points to 6. I can only feel like this is a game Warriors need to switch on. They've got a chance to be leading the premiership after this game if they win it, I think.
Yeah, look, the Warriors, they had that fantastic victory against the Sharks last week, right at the death there, and Newcastle had that exciting game against Manly, the 32-all draw, and so the Knights back at home this week. This could go either way. Before the start of the game, you thought, well, the Knights back at home, yeah, they'll get the win. The Warriors on their form last week, you thought, okay, well, they should probably maybe go in as favourites. But the way that it's going at the moment, Newcastle are all over the Warriors, and it doesn't look like they're going to lose this game.
No, I don't think so. It looks like they're probably going to go on for here. It looks like Newcastle finally clicked too in the last probably 3 weeks. They're starting to come good. So that takes us to the last game of the round. So the one you're a bit concerned about, West Tigers against the Eels tomorrow, 4 p.m. So I reckon the Eels should win it. They should do it pretty easy, to be honest with you. West Tigers are in a fair bit of disarray, and they've got a few problems going on.
Yeah, well, we've all heard about it in the news that the Tigers have got a lot of dramas going on, unfortunately, at the moment. They've had the jersey debacle last week, the CEO debacle as well. So they've got a lot going on at the moment. So it was the same time last year, the Easter Monday game, that they got their first win of the season against Parramatta as well, ironically. 17, I think it was 17-16, something like that, I think, by memory. And Jackson Hastings was at the Tigers at the time, and he kicked the winning field goal. So a danger game for Parramatta. Most people, obviously myself included, is tipping them to win. I'm actually hoping that Parramatta put a score on them, to be honest. But it could be one of those danger games. So Isaiah Papali'i playing against his old club, he'll know all the secrets of Parramatta, and apparently that right-hand edge is dangerous in defence, so that could be an attacking option. They've gone back. The Tigers have gone back to Adam Dewey back at 5'8", and Luke Brooks at half. So we'll see how that goes. And Charlie Staines back to fullback. So the Tigers are going to have a lot of work to do, but it's a crucial game for both clubs. Then Parramatta need to get the win and have a strong performance.
Yeah, well, those changes that the Tigers have made, the Dewey going back to 5'8", 100% that's got to happen. So they're moving players every single week at the moment. It keeps their players unsettled, so hard to get a result out the back of that. So I'm going to assume that the Eels will get the chockies here. So let's have a look when we think the Tigers are actually going to get a win. So next week they look like they've got the bye, so they're no good for next week. They will pick up 2 points out of the bye, unfortunately, round 7. Round 8, the Tigers are hosting Manly. So do we think they can beat Manly at home?
Not at this stage. Not at this stage of the competition. I think Manly will get that win.
Yeah, I'd think they're probably out of streak there, so we're going to roll on here. Against Panthers now, so this is a problem too. Even though Panthers are hosting them on a Saturday night, Penrith are actually coming into form, and the Tigers are getting the Panthers at the wrong end of the deal. I think the Panthers are going to beat the Tigers there round 9. Round 10, they've got St George Illawarra at home. Maybe they've got a chance of getting a win here. So 1:50 on a Sunday afternoon, they've got a fair chance. St George Illawarra are doing okay. They're not lighting the world on fire that good that you could back them in for a win at the moment. So are we looking at a win in round 10 maybe for the Tigers?
Yeah, look, potentially. That's actually magic round, so who knows? Maybe a little bit of magic might go the Tigers' way and get the victory over the Dragons. So that one will be up in Brisbane at Suncorp Stadium. So neither team has a home ground advantage. So that could be a possibility, because you just don't know which Dragons team is going to turn up.
Yeah, that's right. So because round 11, it's not going to be easy for them. They've got the Rabbitohs playing at home at their Rabbitohs home ground. And then round 12, they've got the Cowboys playing Cowboys at home. So Cowboys, well, they're off. That's a bit of a chance too, maybe, to get a win. Round 13, what have they got? That's Origin round, so they're not playing. Then round 14, Canberra, so they've got about three or four legit chances in there to get a win. So I'd be liking their chance against the Panthers, because last year they got a win against the Panthers, and I think that was one of their first wins of the season. That was one of Penrith's first losses as well. So it just unsettled things enough for Penrith and got the Tigers rolling a little bit. Maybe that's what they need, a bit of magic like that. But I would think at the moment, like round 8, Manly no good. So they're probably looking to round 10 at the moment. I think they've got their best shot against St George Illawarra if they can't pull one out against Parramatta. So Parramatta have the quality, but they've got to aim up too tomorrow, because West Tigers can be tricky, particularly when Parramatta are not playing the best either.
Yeah, the Tigers always stand up in this traditional Easter Monday game, and they've had, I think, a few more victories than Parramatta in this fixture as well. I remember back in the day, Paddy Richards, he set up a try for the winning try of the game. Obviously last year, Jackson Hastings kicking the field goal as well. So they've had a couple of moments where they've really stood up in this Easter Monday clash. Although on the other side of the coin, Parramatta have stood up in this game as well. So we all remember the opening of Combank Stadium, 51-6 as well in 2019. So, it's a tricky game for Parramatta, but they need to get the victory. They need to start getting those 2 points every week and slowly just climb back up that ladder from 16th, 15th, 16th.
Yeah. So where do you think Parramatta's going to finish in the competition? If you look at it seriously at the moment, say they get a win tomorrow, where do you think they're going to finish up?
Well, yeah, look, they've had a slow start to the competition, obviously. Only one win so far, so they're going to have to do it the hard way. I think they will definitely finish in the 8. Probably, look, everyone wants to finish in the top 4. By the way Parramatta are playing at the moment, you'll have to get onto a really good roll and start stringing those victories together to get those to get that top 4 position. I think probably a realistic position maybe around that 5 to 7 positions in the top 8. More than likely maybe 6th or 7th at this stage of the competition, the way that they're playing and the way that they are, but let's hope they can, for my sake and many Parramatta and all the Parramatta fans, let's hope they can string some victories together and get those 2 points, I should say, and get into that top 4. They left it to the last game of the regular game of the competition last year to get in the top 4, so it'd be better to get in there and be comfortable in there rather than leave it to the last regular game.
Yeah, it's right. Even Penrith this year, I think Penrith's not quite on the boil when they go for Origin. I think they're going to have a bit of a slump again like they did last year. I think Penrith will be happy they'll want to win the minor premiership, but if they finish 3rd or 4th, that's a pretty good result because they're going to be good enough and have their good enough players there to start firing up when they get into the finals, which they can and have done in the last couple of years. That's why they got the premiership. So at the moment, I would have thought maybe before the Roosters lost to Melbourne Storm, the Roosters have got a fair chance of getting the minor premiership, but it's all a bit open-ended at the moment. I think it could be anyone's. I'm interested to see how Brisbane go and get to round 16, 17, where they're sitting. Once we've played more games, we've pretty much played everyone once and rolling out of the other side of the Origin because that loss will hurt them a little bit last night. It's not too much of a shaker, but yeah, I would think Brisbane, they looked the same last year, but Brisbane looked like they were going to be in the top 4 and they ended up not doing it, so they ran out of steam.
Yeah, they've had a great start to the season. They've played the last 5 games at Suncorp Stadium. The difficulty for them potentially will be in the back half of the season, as you said. The Women's World Football Cup, Soccer Cup, comes into play, so Suncorp Stadium won't be available, so the Broncos will be playing their games out of the Gabba in Brisbane, so different ground there. It's obviously a round ground instead of a rectangle, so that'll be interesting there, but once they start doing a little bit of travelling as well, that'll be interesting, but so far they're going well. If you look at the top 8 as it is at the moment, you've got the Titans, Dolphins and Warriors in there at the moment with the Sea Eagles. It'll be interesting to see if they can stay in there as well, because outside of the 8 you've got the Rabbitohs, the Sharks, the Cowboys and the Eels, and the Raiders who made the 8 last year as well, so outside that top 8. So it's just been such a great competition so far this year, so close. Obviously this week and last week we saw a couple of big blowout scores, but relatively the rest of the competition has been so close, so anybody on their day can get the victory, and that top 8 might look completely different again by round 27, and as I said, anyone can get the win on the day, and it just shows in my tipping this year it's not very good.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the Rabbitohs, so my tip there, Rabbitohs, Sharks and Eels will all make the top 8. Particularly the Rabbitohs, I think they'll be in the top 4. I think maybe they're a little bit too far out of the swing at the moment to win the minor premiership. But it's hard to say because there's only like 6 games in now. So you could have an 8-win or 10-win this year and all of a sudden go from mid-table to top of the table easy as, and then put a buffer on the other teams too. Paracade podcast. What do you got coming up tomorrow in the Paracade podcast, Troy?
So tomorrow it's back to the fans and members series of rugby league fans and members, and it just so happens to be another Parramatta Eels fan and member, and his name is Ryan Linton, and massive Parramatta Eels fan. So he tells me his story about supporting the Eels from over the years, favourite players, moments, memorabilia, stuff like that. But he's also the creator and owner of a game called Pub Rugby League as well, which is basically based in Brisbane. It starts off in Brisbane. Ryan's from Brisbane, and it's sort of a cross between beer pong and rugby league. But there's no beer involved, but it's played at pubs. So it's a very interesting concept. He's the owner and creator of that one, so we talk about that one as well. So that'll be out tomorrow on Apple and Spotify and any other quality podcast platform, and episode 144.
Yeah, there you go. Closing in on 150. So I'm looking for that beer rugby league. So, pub rugby league.
Yeah,
Interested to know about that.
You can follow it on Instagram as well, PRL_pub rugby league. So if you want to, before the podcast comes out tomorrow, jump on Instagram and check it out and see what pub rugby league's all about. So it looks like a real lot of fun to play, and there's competitions that are played in pubs up in Brisbane, and potentially looking to come down to New South Wales as well. So I'm waiting to have a crack. So maybe when I get up to Queensland, I might be able to have a crack one day.
Yeah, there you go. Looking forward to that. Just before you go too, so the Warriors have scored and now they're down 22-12, 50 minutes in. So they look like they might launch a comeback here. So I'll be hoping that they do and they get the win. If they do, I think they'll take them right up the top of the table.
So still, 28 minutes to go, so a long time in rugby league, as we all know. So if they can get another try, get back to 22-18, you just don't know how this game could end. So they're currently in 4th position, so they'll jump up to second, I think. Yeah, second. So second position if they get the win tonight.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be good for the Warriors. Troy, thanks for joining us tonight on the Weekend Sports Wrap, and we'll make sure we catch your release of Paracade Podcast tomorrow, episode 144.
Thank you very much, Duckman. Thank you very much for having me, and good luck to all the listeners in making those Easter egg guesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll chat to you next week, Troy. Have a great week.
Thanks, Duckman.
See you, mate.
Bye.